Hello YouTube, this is Brian Tubbs coming at you with another video. Hopefully you guys can see me. I'm back here by the cow's rear end. The cow is for the most part done. Now we just have to put our chemical on it to cause it to get the rust patina on it. And after working with these legs, I found out that these are probably they're 4 series stainless steel, either 409 or 411, one or the other. But we found these legs not far from here, laying on the side of the street. They were just some square tube. They're about 2-inch width, square. And they were about 8 feet long. There were 2 of them laying on the side of the street. So we just picked them up and just, said maybe these will work with the cow. I didn't think they would at first because I thought they would be too wide, for this thing. But once I, put them on, or put them up to the body, they didn't look too bad. So let me just kind of show you guys kind of what we did. All right, so for the legs, like I said, we use this 2-inch square 400 series stainless, we'll call it. I didn't know what it was when we first saw it. I didn't know if it was like a chrome plate or like a stainless, plate over top of mild steel. I didn't know exactly what it was, because on the inside is rusted. And so I figured it really didn't make that big of a difference. It's a cow. It's going outside in someone's garden, and it'll be, rusting over the years and that kind of thing. But what I did was I took my grinder just on a scrap piece and just started grinding the top layer, thinking I could take the top layer off. But the deeper I went, the more it shined up, kept shining. So then I realized it was 400 series stainless. So of course it's magnetic. And I'll put a thumbnail up of the video where I was talking about this. It's when I was making the 2 large outdoor sculptures, and then I was making a pedestal for a slope piece. And at the end of the build, I found out that the pedestal was 400 series. When the guy at the metal shop, the metal outlet, thought it was 300 series. So I learned a big lesson with this stuff. Always check to see what you're using. So if I was making a fine sculpture and I found out it was magnetic, well, I wasn't sure what it was, I would not have used it. But for something like this, whatever you find, you just pick up and you just kind of use. People love found stuff. When they're buying sculptures, if you say it has found metal on it, you're recycling the metal. So it won't, go to waste or destroy the earth or whatever. People love that stuff, so they'll just buy it like crazy. So the legs on the rear, I want to put a slight angle to them, because if you look at a cow's legs, the rear legs on the real cow, they come off the very back, come down and they taper in. A cow or a bull or whatever it is. But with this, I want to have a little bit of room out here, so I can have room to weld in here. So we weld it here, top and front, and then slightly underneath we weld it. So I put just enough bend in it so that the person would see the bend. So this is what it looks like a little bit closer. This is the same bend that I used. So what I did was I just took the straight pipe, measured about center, put it on my my cutoff wheel, my chop saw, and just cut it down from the top, probably about 7/8 of the way down. Then I just put it on my table edge and just slightly bent it until I was satisfied with the bend. I didn't want the bend to be, too much of a bend, because it would just take a lot of welding to get that, that big gap closed. So I just did it enough just so you would see the bend. But as you see on this side, you can see the weld here and here. On the inside, I didn't weld that, just so you guys can see what it looks like. I'll give it kind of close up here, so you can see that big gap. And I had to fill all of that gap all around on the legs, on the cowl. So I didn't want to go much wider than that, because I didn't want to be, like I say, using that much wire to close this thing out. But that's what it looks like, where the gap is welded, and then on the opposite side it's welded here. And these legs, I won't turn it because it's heavy and I don't want it to fall off the table. Well, let me see if I can kind of turn it just so you guys can see. So now if you guys can see, the legs are not going straight down. They're not straight up and down like this, but they're on a slight angle. And I did that because at first we were going to use a base underneath here, maybe a 1/4 inch plate underneath, and everything will be standing on a plate. But then I said, well, why don't we make this a standalone piece where it doesn't have a base or a plate on the bottom? So with that, with us coming to the final conclusion that we did not want a base, we just wanted it to stand alone, I made this so that from the outer edge of this, we call it a hoof, to the outer edge of this side, it's about 15 inches. And then, so on the bottom of these, we have our little feet, where our, mounting tabs, if you will. So these stick out another 1.25 inches. So that gives me another about 2.5 inches per side. So the overall is right at 18 inches width, which is what I use oftentimes on our big sculptures. We'll go 18 by 18 or 20 by 20, something like that. But this thing only stands like 4 feet. So 18 is enough, for that height. And the other reason I did the 18 was because there's wind resistance here with this body, and I didn't want it to be blowing over. So that's why we put the mounting tabs on here, so people could run stakes into the ground to keep it from moving, being when high winds and whatnot come through and try to knock it over, it'll be there. And so that's why these legs are slightly tapered. Now, as opposed to just doing a lot of guesswork on what my angle should be, I got cardboard. I got a piece of cardboard and cut it right at close to 2 inches, which will match up to the 2-inch tube. And so as opposed to just having to do a lot of math and all that, doing a lot of math, trying to figure out my angle, I just got a piece of cardboard, cut it, and then I put a slight angle on the cardboard, just to kind of give me an idea of where I want it to be. So I figured if I put it on here and my angle was not enough, I can just trim the cardboard back a little bit more. Or if I cut the cardboard and then the angle was too far, the base would be too wide, I would either just put arrows on here to tell me not to cut the metal back so far, or just cut another piece of cardboard and just redo it. But I got fairly close the first time that I did it. As you can see, the cardboard extends out a little bit further than the leg than I wanted it. So I just, as opposed to having this, say at 1 3/4, I pushed it out to 1 7/8 just to give me a little bit more material here, so it wouldn't kick out so much. And so after I got my dimensions in my head of what I wanted, I just laid this on top of the metal and just put a line on there. And I made my calculation, as opposed to going, like I say, 1 3/4 from this end to here, I went like maybe 1 7/8, something like that. And that's how I was able to get the angles that I wanted without having to do too much work. So I just laid this on all 4 legs, got the angle that I wanted, made all my cuts, and that's how I came up with this. And what I did, this is how this thing looks. So, for example, this leg with this bend would be on this side of the cow. And so, after I cut that material out, this is what it left me with, this, and it's open on the back side. And so when I put this onto the cow's body, I had this big gap on top. So what I did was just took some metal from the pieces I cut out, just cut a little cap to put on top, and just TIG welded that on, grinded it down, so that when I put it on here, I would have something to weld to, and I wouldn't have this big gap. And that's how the legs are on there. Turn this baby back. And so with the hoofs, we just used a round, that's about a 1/2 inch discs. And I just cut a little slit in the front, like where a hoof would be, just on all 4, just to look more like kind of like a cow's or a bull's, hoof. Just add little things. And then the line that you see here, that's like the cow's knees, so it's not just a straight bar. Just little things I added. And then the same thing back here, you can see that line there. And then this is the tail that we came up with. It is 5/8, 836 steel solid rod. I took my oxyacetylene torch, and my son and I took it, bent it. We got the initial bend here, because that was most important. And then we just laid it on there and just continue, bending it and shaping it until we got to where we are now. And this, I took a cutoff wheel and cut the upper portion of the material off, because it would have been standing way up here. Let me see. This is what the rod looked like before we bent it. So it was sitting up this high on top. And I couldn't have it just sitting up like that, this big hump here, this big area here. So what I did was I took my cutoff wheel and just shaved the top off. And then we took the grinder and grinded it down. And then we took some weld and welded, like say from here up to the hump, the remaining hump there on this rod, and we just blended it in with our grinder. And so when you look at it even close up, there's no hump there. People can't tell exactly how this tail was on there, but it goes from the weld to the tail and just blends in. And then I take water in here, just kind of blend it even more. And then with this, the part that cows use to flotch wires and whatnot, I used a brush, just a metal brush you'll put on your drill, to get rust and stuff off. We use that. And then you guys saw the video of me making the head. There's another video of me, video talking about the eyes and all that stuff. So it's pretty much done finally. Like I said, it just needs to be put outside in patina. These are the rings I put on. There's 3 different pieces of, for the body, because I used 3 different pieces of metal that I had laying around. That's why it has the lines. I think the lines look pretty good. They added something to it. We were going to put circles, like cows, spots and whatnot, but then it would be just too much work. And so there you have it, guys. That's the finished product. So now to just be time, like I said, just patina it, and then my son will put it in a show and sell it. And we'll probably never make another one again like this, because there's so many, different things that we did to it. Like as far as finding some more of these legs, laying around on the street somewhere, probably not going to happen. I don't know, get another plate of metal and just doing one solid piece and putting these lines here. I mean, that's possible. But doing the head and doing all this stuff, it takes a long time to do. Well, not a long time, just takes more time than I wanted to spend on this thing. But that's it. It's pretty much done, guys. I just wanted to just show you the final product. And so we'll be calling this one Holy Cow. So there you go. You have it right there. All right, guys. So that's going to pretty much do it for this video. And like I said, I just wanted to show you guys the finished product of this Holy Cow. It was fun to work with, but I'm glad it's done. Trying to put this thing outside, let it do its thing in the weather, and move on to something else. And I think the next project, I'm not sure how much I'll be able to get on camera, but I'll be working on the piece Two Sons. That's the piece of my son. He'll be working on it with me. He's having to work a lot, so I'm kind of helping him out and just trying to get pieces together, for the upcoming season. But this is a picture of the Two Sons here, and I've cut out a couple of shapes already. The top ring and the bottom ring, and these are the 2 most difficult parts, to get going, because it takes quite a bit of cutting and grinding and trimming and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like I'm getting a little bit closer to getting this thing started. Of course, he'll be helping me. I'm not sure if he'll be in any videos just because of how his work schedule is right now. So it might be just me, in videos. I'm not exactly sure yet. But all right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. And hope to see you on the next one. And as usual, peace out.